Breaking overnight, new moves and new threats by President Trump to send the National Guard into blue states over the objections of governors.
The U.S. is under attack, but not by who you think. This sociopathic dotard is not the real threat to our democracy. It's the Republican Party, a collection of weak, fearful little men whose existence was grifted by a weak and pathetic con. And now they stand around with the power to stop him, but not the balls one would need to save our nation.
Yield, man. Let the troops come into your city and show how crime can be reduced. It's a morale boost for the country, and it's safe and right for everybody involved.
Welcome armed troops wearing masks into your neighborhoods, grabbing up people with brown skin, many U.S. citizens, and sending them to prisons in foreign nations. That's a morale booster? Go fuck yourself. But first, one of the greatest casualties in the era of Trump has been irony and nuance, and what's happening in Illinois is a perfect example. Chicago has a lot of murders annually, as many American cities do. Most of it's drug-related, battles over turf and the sort. The irony is, most of those being killed are African Americans. Black Chicagoans were over 20 times more likely to be homicide victims than white residents. Yet Trump and his little ass nibblers have cut funding for drug rehab in Chicago and discarded any assistance for drug intervention. Republicans also ended breakfast for poor kids and after-school programs in predominantly African-American neighborhoods. So Trump responds like most pencil-dick Republicans and uses a shotgun to kill a fly, and it won't work. And here's the nuanced angle. ICE and the National Guard, while having large numbers of camo-wearing weekend warriors, have zero experience in law enforcement. They simply aren't schooled like inner-city cops, and they don't know the neighborhoods, the community organizers, or the local police. There's nothing nuanced about Fat Donnie's attack on American cities like Chicago, and sooner or later, somebody's going to get killed. And that's exactly what Trump wants.
Flight records appear to show the troops landed in neighboring Indiana overnight as they await what comes next. Now, Illinois Governor JB Pritzker has called the mobilization an unconstitutional invasion. The city and state have sued over it.
So far, it hasn't been necessary, but we have an Insurrection Act for a reason. If I had to enact it, I'd do that. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up, sure, I'd do that.
Man Titties is hiding in plain sight. He's implying the Insurrection Act is coming. And for the record, the Insurrection Act authorizes the president to deploy military forces inside the U.S. to suppress rebellion. It is the primary exception to the Posse Comitatus Act, under which federal military forces are generally barred from participating in civilian law enforcement activities. So in other words, Trump has already implemented the Insurrection Act. And then Trump tweeted this today.
Chicago mayor should be in jail for failing to protect ICE officers. Governor Pritzker also.
Well, think about what Trump is saying. First of all, imagine if Trump really arrested the mayor of Chicago and the Illinois governor, who is also the presumed Democratic candidate for the White House in 2028. For what? Yeah, there would be no charge, and that's the beauty of the vagueness of the Insurrection Act. But here's the question. If troops and ICE in these cities need protection, like from Pritzker, are they being attacked? Which they shouldn't be if they're not breaking the law. And wouldn't that defeat Trump's point that the troops are bringing with them calm? It's all bullshit.
You know as well as I do, the President of the United States in the last 24 hours called for you to be imprisoned. I want to give you an opportunity. We've seen your reaction on social media, but I want to hear what you have to say back to the President of the United States.
Well, let's start with the idea that this is a convicted felon. I mean, think about that, who is threatening to jail me. I got to say, this guy's unhinged, he's insecure, he's a wannabe dictator, and there's one thing I really want to say to Donald Trump. If you come for my people, you come through me, so come and get me.
What does that mean exactly, Governor? Do you believe that he would follow through or that he'll chicken out? He basically said the same thing to Governor Gavin Newsom when I was with him at the height of the raids in the Los Angeles area. Governor Gavin Newsom is walking free on the streets of California. You think that he'll chicken out, or would he ever arrest you?
Well, you know the expression, Trump always chickens out, taco. And I got to say, he can't arrest. We've done nothing wrong here. And very importantly, it's Donald Trump that is breaching the Constitution, breaking the law. We're taking him to court, and I believe we're going to win.
And governors like Newsom and Pritzker and mayors like Chicago's Mayor Johnson are standing up to Pouty Fuckwinkle, and in no small way with anger and a promise to not back down.
We will defend our democracy. We will protect our humanity. We will stand up for the interests of working people. And so that's the state, local government, the federal delegation that are all here committed, standing firm in our values, standing up for the greatest freaking city in the world, the city of Chicago. The last thing that Chicagoans want is someone from the outside of our city who doesn't know our city, try to dictate and tell us what our city needs. The addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way to drive violence down. We have some very simple demands. We are calling on the Trump administration to release the $800 million for violence prevention funds that he stole back in April.
And on the state level, Pritzker's not mincing words either.
They need to stop inciting our city's residents. Since the beginning of this invasion, families have been snatched up off the streets or removed from their homes, zip-tied and detained for hours, including especially U.S. citizens and legal residents of our state. And in the words of CBP Chief Patrol Agent Greg Bavino, they're being chosen by how they look. Peaceful protesters have been hit with tear gas and shot with rubber bullets. Journalists simply reporting the facts on the ground have been targeted and arrested. U.S. citizens, including children, have been traumatized and detained. This escalation of violence is targeted and intentional and premeditated.
Trump is obviously out of control, one day calling Putin names and the next day they're friends. He also attacks Antifa, which is simply a grassroots pushback on authoritarianism and has no central organization. And then the next day he attacks Fox News because they interviewed a Democrat. He's mentally ill. And of course there's Jeffrey Epstein, which ironically could be the reason behind all of this.
It's sitting on my desk.
But that's for another time.
I kept my underwear on.
Somewhere along the way, Americans either became lazy or their galactic ignorance simply took over. I'm drawn to the second conclusion, especially as it refers to the Republican Party. The political right has always had an element of racism, void of the nuanced understanding that if you live in a neighborhood with drugs, there's going to be crime. And with fathers either in jail or with drug arrests in their past, they can't find work. Thus, poverty and crime become generational. But you don't fucking solve that with mass soldiers carrying around assault rifles. You only fix that through a layer of nuanced solutions that might take a generation to address, much less to fix. So these nubby little puds like Stephen Miller talk tough like they know the solution.
Children will be taught to love America. Children will be taught to be patriots. Children will be taught civic values for schools that want federal taxpayer funding.
And here's another question for Republicans. Where are the troops in Houston, Birmingham, Indianapolis, Richmond, Louisville, and swing state cities like Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Detroit, and St. Louis? All of these cities compete with Chicago in the number of murders per 100,000. So I guess I answered my own question, right? What we need to do is obvious. We need to get in the faces of Republican leaders and make their lives hell. Everyone from Mike Johnson to Josh Hawley to Tommy Tuberville to Ted Cruz to Rand Paul to Marco Rubio. Every time they go out to dinner, we ruin their night like they're doing to the rest of America. The same applies to Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, and especially this asswipe.
We don't know who she is. We don't know what she believes. She's going to get paralyzed in the Situation Room while the generals have their way with her.
Trump is either going to stop certain congressional elections in blue states by claiming fraud and sending in the troops, or cancel the whole thing. And what can we do? Well, while Trump has Secret Service protection, his ass nibblers don't. And while we should never hurt anyone, we can scare the shit out of them right now. Let them know that if Trump is successful, the America we know will be destroyed. Then make it clear that before that happens, their America will change dramatically, right before their eyes. And they'll wish they had done something first.
Whether the women like it or not.
Go fuck yourself.
Goddamn right.
I kept my underwear on.
Whether the women like it or not.
A witch hunt.
Suck my fat one.
You're a nasty person.
I think the president is definitely f***ing Satan.
They know how to get to me.
They had what?
Bloated and fat and disgusting.
We're a nation that speaks English.
Look, if something like that thing's so ugly.
Who you talking to?
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Tick-tock.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.